All right, so I was out on my rink just down the street from my house, as you do at 9 o'clock at night, skating around, and I thought to myself, I really just need to make a video of like 50 Canadian RPGs or so. Who knows how many it's going to be? Probably at least that many. So I'll pull some of the stuff off this shelf, pull some stuff out of these boxes, and we can have a look at a whole bunch of, it is a little warm, Canadian role-playing games. Join me for that. All right. So, I've got a big stack, and that's just a start. So we're going to run through these relatively quickly, and then I'll run up the stairs again and get another stack. Let me adjust the camera. So, what I've got here is The Quiet Year. This is a classic map drawing story game that has inspired a whole genre. This is a post-apocalyptic game. There's a deck of cards here. There's 2 questions on each card. You answer one, and then you take an action. This is sort of 365 view type game. You're not playing as individuals, you're playing as a community, and you have this emergent story to come about as you play. There's also contempt tokens in here and project dice. I have a video about this that I've recorded before. I should have said right at the start, everything I'm about to show you, unless I call it out, is available on the Composed Dream Games RPG Marketplace, where friendly local game stores can order it in for you for their store. If you don't have a friendly local game store near you, you can also order in from us. And there are PDFs of everything included all the time. If you ever pick up one of these at a Canadian local game store or a UK local game store, we do also operate in the UK, we'll happily honor the complimentary PDF. All right, so The Quiet Year is a bit of a classic. It's been around for a long time. Let's touch on something that's new, Slug Blaster. It's just come out. This is by a Canadian designer. It is published by a company out of the US. This is teenagers going into other dimensions. This is Forged in the Dark, so you have archetypes that are kind of like your classes, like the Guts and the Heart. And you have moves, and it's a D6 kind of dice pool sort of system, and there are clocks, and so on. This has been compared to doing for Forged in the Dark games what Monster Hearts did for Powered by the Apocalypse games. Now, Monster Hearts is another Canadian role-playing game. This is by the same designer who did The Quiet Year. This is Powered by the Apocalypse, Teenage Monsters in Love. You play as teenagers. Enough said. Very quite influential. This is the second edition. The original edition, I have that. I played this at a convention, and I immediately picked it up in Hamilton quite some time ago. Now, same designer also did Ribbon Drive. This is a quick GM-less story game where you listen to music, and as in literally listen to music. All players need to bring a playlist of music, a few songs, and tell a story together. Bury Without Ceremony also did Dream Askew, Dream Apart. There is a system in here called the Belonging Outside of Belonging engine. And this is also sometimes referred to as No Dice, No Masters. So it is GM-less. There's no dice. You have tokens. You have hard moves that require you to spend a token. And you have soft moves as well. And you can just do any time. We're going to do an honorable mention here. This is Warbirds. We don't actually carry this one. but it is by a Canadian designer, and it is some of the best design for air combat. Now, I haven't played this myself. When I read it, I thought, a D6 plus something might be a little too narrow. Maybe D8 would be better. Somebody else who had played it kind of agreed with me. Great. Okay, these are all by Genesis of Legend and Jason Pitre. This is some Spark engine games. So the original generic system, Spark. You have Spark as an attribute. You have a few other attributes. There is some guidance for creating your own system. Players get to set two aspects of the scene, and the GM sets the other aspects. It's an open end. You have beliefs that's consistent between all Spark system games, and then you have broad, common, and deep talents that give you different bonuses and have more or less focus. Sig Manual of Planes. This is a love letter to Planescape. So, a city in the middle of all the infinite planes of existence. There is also a Forged in the Dark version of Sig. After the War is your sci-fi memetic horror RPG, again using the Spark system. You have different sci-fi races on this colony planet after a galactic civil war of mind-warping viruses. Good stuff. All right, Vanguard. This is from Pendlehaven Publishing. They have rulebooks in both French and English. You can just grab a character and you have some base skills. The skills here are all in the back. You have skill cards that you use. This is a story game. So you have a few skills cards in your hand. You pull two. You hope that you can beat the challenge that has been set. You play through 6 chapters. You use these cards to inspire what's going on in the chapter. You can also make your own character, like this one right here. Great for one-shots. There's also a good continuing game options where you can level up and improve your characters. The difficulty of challenges are set by runes, Norse Viking runes. All right, so that's Vanguard. Headspace, we still have this available in PDF. This is a powered by the Apocalypse Engine game. I got this signed by Mark Richardson when it came out. All the operatives in Headspace, this is a cyberpunk powered by the Apocalypse Engine game, have a link so they can use the best mental link so they can use the best skill from their entire group if they work, but it does cause feedback and negative loops sometimes. Nefertiti Overdrive, still available in PDF, not in print at the moment. There is a second edition. Very over-the-top Kung Fu, Ancient Egypt. Fight to survive, martial arts meets heart. Beautiful game. I've done a quick video on the combat cards and a little bit of what I think of the system. This is diceless, it's multi-generational, it's medium crunch. The way things interact are neat. You know, punch beats grapple. I might have that backwards. If you both punch, then the higher rating wins. The higher rating in technique wins. Your rating in punch is also your rating in heart. Plays really smooth. Sessions go through multiple years. There's also a solo play, which I just played through recently and didn't get through. I failed. I died in the fire in 1953, I believe. So there's that as well. Okay, we're going to touch on a few OSR titles real quick. So, I've done a video on Magical Industrial Revolution. This is printed in Canada. It's by a Canadian designer. This is your pre-apocalypse OSR city setting. You can use it with lots of other systems and engines as well. This is sort of an idea engine game. Just like The Quiet Year is sort of an idea engine game. Or setting for Magical Industrial Revolution. And just like the Monster Overhaul's tables are a kind of idea engine. They are all there to give you ideas. Enough said. Dragon Slayers by Greg Gillespie of, say, High Fell and Barrowmaze fame. Met Greg at Phantasm recently, and this is your AD&D Advanced Dungeons and Dragons mashup with nice clean art, mashup with a bit of BX, nice clean art, good clear text, easy on the eyes for folks who need that. It's great if you're looking for an OSR. Fate of the Norns Ragnarok. So Fate of the Norns Ragnarok was the original kind of core rulebook that uses runes, exactly like the ones that I showed you earlier in Vanguard. To resolve all the action, this is a class level-based type system. You also have a character player level that can let you play different things as when you have a higher level. Should you perish, well, there's a whole ceremony of people honoring you, and so on. So there is also Children of Eru, same or the very similar system. This is slightly updated. It also has social combat mechanics in it. Your position matters a little bit, as in you usually play this on a hex. You have different powers that are tied to the runes. You take damage to your runes as well. On your turn, you're usually drawing 2 runes from your bag, and that informs what you can do. There's a whole host of supplements for Fate of the Norns Ragnarok, like Lords of the Ash here. Alright, what else we've got? Now that's a relatively crunchy one. Free Spacer is relatively crunchy. You can roll up, but perhaps easier to GM or less prep than Fate of the Norns generally takes. Free Spacer, you can roll up random aliens, you can roll up random planets. It's a D10 dice pool with misses assigned by the GM, essentially. Everybody has the same kit as a Free Spacer, but you can upgrade it and your ship differently. You are the crew of a contingency type corvette after a galactic civil war, and you are working for your faction and traveling around and taking jobs. I have a long video on Free Spacer. I love it. For the Queen, designed by somebody from Ottawa. This is a very simple narrative story game. It is just a deck of cards with questions on them. The game starts with you being told the Queen asks you to escort her on a journey, and the game ends when the card comes up saying the Queen is under attack. Do you defend her? And the whole thing is just this emergent story that you tell together, answering question prompts. The deal here. Oh, the deal. This is a 4-player poker LARP. You get a character card, there are scene cards, there are things that you mix into a deck of poker cards as you play them, and they come up. You start accusing things of things. It ends in a dramatic, often high stakes. You might end up shouting at each other. Good stuff. Betting Bullets is brand new. I ran this over Christmas for my parents. This is diceless. It starts with an auction, and everything, this is a straight Western, and everything you do is also an auction. So you have a base number of bullets. If, say, you're first in riding, you get +3 bullets. But anybody might outwager you. Centurion, I've run this a couple times. I have a video on it. Right now, we have 1 or 2 print copies left. That is very similar to Cataclysm, where we have 2 print copies left. This is a class level-based system. It uses D10s. You have to be able to tolerate a good cat pun. It comes with cardboard dials, dice, cardboard standees. These are for tracking hit points, an adventure, a map, and the full rule book. As above, so below. This is one of our newest ones. This is about celestial day jobs. So you play as usually a mixed table of angels and demons, and you have jobs that you are supposed to do and things that you're supposed to do. And this uses kind of a simple roll d6s and add them together engine. It drips with character. Alright, I said I was going to go get another stack. So, I'll go get another stack. How many games was that? I don't know. Maybe I'll put up a counter. Alright, so I have retrieved another big stack of games here. I'm going to quickly mention Hit Point Press, who does 5e D&D supplements, including things like the Big Book of Big Bads, Humblewood Tales, and lots of other content. They're based in Ottawa, which is also where Composed Dream Games is based. Nirvana on Fire is by David Kenny. It's a Mothership supplement, along with many others that he has done. If you love Mothership, they're great adventures. He's out of the Vancouver area. Alright, so Sword's Edge is its own system. There are 14 or so PDF supplements and adventures and for different genres and so on. It is a generic. It tends towards a bit of your high action. It is a 2d10 plus something system. You do decide a concept, background, and similar that give you bonuses that you name yourself. So it has a bit of that kind of PDQ aspect. It might feel a little bit like Fate to some people who are familiar with that engine. And it tends towards your kind of your action cinema kind of feel. Often, if you're watching a historic action flick or series, Sword's Edge will probably do a good job of replicating that without a lot of work. Home is one of the map drawing games. I mentioned at the beginning that The Quiet Year spurned the whole genre. This is mech versus kaiju. This is you can play this solo or GMless. It's a one-shot. So each of you would make a mech. You would make kaiju for each other to fight. You would map out the continent you're from. That's great. This Discord has ghosts in it, meant explicitly to be played over Discord. Half the players play ghosts, the other half play humans exploring the haunted house. One of them can only type, the other one can only talk. It's quite an interesting experience. Torque, by the same designer as this Discord has ghosts. Will Josps is a GMless racing game. So this is your Mad Max racing after the apocalypse game. It's got a very interesting racing mechanic. It's semi-abstract with zones. You could adapt this racing mechanic to another game, but it does break down things into rest stops and refueling and a more narrative phase of things that are happening. You can play this more Mad Max. You're going to be fighting each other as you race, or more just you're calmly racing across to see who can get there first. Definitely Not Doppelgangers is a very, very silly game about lying about the fact that you're not a doppelganger when you're all doppelgangers, and suspicion escalating, and you're just rolling a d20 to see if your lies are believed, essentially, but your suspicion goes up. Dungeon Crawler is a 5-room dungeon generator or narrative game that you play together using playing cards and question prompts. The publisher of these two, Christian, is out of, and designer, Christian, is out of the Kitchener kind of Waterloo area. Festival of the Hidden Moon. This is a really simple, you choose one of these characters. So, narrative game, you're prompting each other with questions. You have a lovely experience. It's simple, it's sweet. You're supposed to exchange some gifts, some small tokens as part of the experience. These look like quite tiny little designs, but they do have a full 2d8 role-playing game system in them, as well as a setting. Character sheet looks like something like this. You've got some classic things like strength, dexterity, and mental. You've got some classic looking skills. The 2d8, and add something, is a nice bell curve that I quite like. This is brand new to us, and is by a designer out of Winnipeg. Their company is Trapped Chest. Hedge Witch, wands and lasers, guns, and this frog is ruining my dungeon crawl. These are all solo play, but you could also have somebody run the experience for a player. They all use a die and a random deck of cards to generate what's going on. In Hedge Witch, you're saving a magical enchanted forest. In Wands and Laser Guns, you're a wizard transported to a cyberpunk world and everybody's trying to murder you. And you have 2 stats, wands and lasers. And this frog is running my dungeon crawl. You have been cursed by a frog to follow you around as you're exploring a dungeon. Deck of cards to generate random events. Told by Starlight, this is a map drawing game where you are creating the constellations for your world and the myths about them. So, an interesting story game where you create parts of a world. SIG City of Blades, this is the Forged in the Dark version of SIG that I mentioned earlier, Planescape. So this is your freebooters in this, fighting over territories in this city, fighting over territory in this cosmopolitan city in the center of all the planes of existence. Dwelling is a solo play horror journaling game about a haunted house that generally ends in a seance. This version includes an expansion that was made for it and a couple key bookmark and a key. Wastelander's Handbook, Earth After Death. This is sort of a 0th edition of this system by Hammer City Games out of, you guessed it if you're from the area, Hamilton. So this has kind of a Gamma World-esque quality to it, where you have mutants, and you have ghosts, and you have abandoned people, and androids, biohorrors, all these sorts of things. For the size of this game, it is a game booklet. It packs in a lot. It's fairly crunchy, as you can see, I would think. You have to deal with radiation, there are mutations, there's all sorts of equipment that you can have. Earth After Death by Hammer City Games. God Killer Prophecy, this is one of mine. You create the world together, there's a Dark Lord you need to slay, one of you is the chosen one, you have 2 decks of cards, you're generating the world across 6 chapters as you play. You go from the Oracle phase, where you're defining and creating the world, to an adventure phase each chapter, and trying to get all of the best cards to the Chosen One, losing cards as you go to defeat him at the end. And the Dark Gods deck gets harder as you play. Simple Superheroes, also one of mine. This is a brainstorm your own superpower system. You name your powers yourself. It's an opposed dice pool system. It's a framework, so there's all sorts of guidance for how to create and brainstorm up your own superpowers and fit it in the power framework. Emberwind. We've got 2 titles for Emberwind here. This is a fairly crunchy tactical game. You can solo play the Songweave Tapestry should you wish, but perhaps more aptly you could play through it as a group without really having a GM. This is sort of a pre-written scenario. There are what the opponents and villains are most likely to do laid out for you each round by round already. So you can kind of tactically run through this experience together. You can grab multiple characters each, or you could have 4 players playing through it. If you want to customize your heroes, you'll want to get the Emberwind Hero Manual. The Dungeon Key. These are a couple adventures for Morkborg, and a character sheet, and I believe the Dungeon Key is funding a shooter of their own design called Dirtbags right now or very soon. Posthuman Pathways. This is the game that I've had for the longest, that I've wanted to play the most, that I probably have no reason not to have played other than it takes 3 players, and I always forget when I have 3 players that I have this. So this is narrative prompt based. Each person takes one of the roles across essentially 9 scenes, so everybody gets a scene through 3 phases of their life and 3 phases of technology, and technology, you decide what and how technology has changed us from humans to something else. Perfect game for somebody who, loves reading analog science fiction magazine, which I do. One day I'll get it to the table. 7 Sealed Spirits. This is an adventure supplement for Knave, though you could use it for all sorts of different systems. It's a setting, an island setting. There's a lot of different things going on. It's really flexible. There's a lot packed into this. A lot of NPCs, a lot of locations. Again, for the size, just a ton of material that you can use. Watcher DM also did a few other adventures and supplements, including a number of 5e adventures, but ones for other systems like Troika as well. And they've done Warp Crawl and Quest Crawl. Both of these you lay out a deck of cards. You're going exploring. Here you're exploring space. Here you're exploring a fantasy island. When you arrive in that location, you flip over the card and just find out what you discover there. This one needs 3 to 5 players. Warp Crawl. Quest Crawl, you can play solo. You can play it with probably up to 8 players and have a good time. Those are GM-less exploration games. Palanquin. This is a one-shot game. I would refer to it as perhaps a scenario game. So generally, the GM type figure is the princess who is being saved from a palace coup, and all the other players grab one of these sheets. You never play with all the characters, which does make the whole thing a little bit more replayable. If you don't pick one of the if you don't pick the bearer of crime, then your story isn't going to focus on crime very much. You play through 6 chapters, and one time when I read it, I added an extra chapter on the fly. That was fun. And then at the end, the princess judges whether she trusts you or not and whether she will reward you, because you do, of course, succeed in bringing her to safety. Widdershins is a game of lost toys. I got to play this about 6 months ago with the designer Christopher Kit LaHaye. You're a lost toy that has come to life. You've been abandoned by your humans, and now you deal with spirits and other sort of evil lost toys and other things. And you have a bit of kind of stuff that is kind of your animated magic that you can use for different effects. Same designer, First Contact, and publisher, Fool's Moon Entertainment. First Contact is your light, GM'd sci-fi space game that is also quite flexible. You could do other things with it as well. So 6, 8, 10 system, you play at different tiers. So your entire ship would be at 10. You as the command staff would be at 8, and your crew would be at 6. So every player would generally have crew that they're in charge of. Though you could also kind of change that up and have everybody have their own ship and mix things up. You capture different dice in this, and generally a fair bit will happen in a roll, much like, say, Centurion, where a lot tends to happen in one roll. You can capture sets of opposed dice. One of the neat things about this is when you set the scene, you get to roll for what you see, and if the players roll well, they get to add facts into the scene that could help them. Kuromori Hill, again by Fool's Moon Entertainment, and Fox Magic. That's an adventure for Fox. Magic is about magical Japanese foxes trying to gain more tails, often interacting with spirits. High Plains Samurai, we don't have the core book at the moment. We'll be getting it again soon, as well as some other titles from Broken Roller Games like Pandora Total Destruction, another superhero role-playing game. This is sort of the quick start adventure with sample characters. It's a mashup, sort of a post-apocalyptic mashup of a bunch of different cultures and times that have been slammed together with a kind of desert between them. And you're meant to figure out sort of how this happened. More fantasy, classic, older fantasy role-playing game. Some real-world European kind of religions and backgrounds, and is meant to be a very kind of historical Europe feeling role-playing game, and has some pretty good GM advice in the GM book. Alright, so that was, I don't know, a lot of Canadian role-playing games, and I pan around and show the stacks of games. I am sure there are quite a few that we carry that I've missed. Alright, I found 2 that I missed. One in particular that I suppose is good to end in. Both of these are powered by the Apocalypse Engine games. Noir World is your noir cinema game with a rotating GM for every scene, which is quite intriguing. And there are several things that are sort of different settings that you could play through for Noir World. The perhaps fitting one to end is perhaps the most Canadian game on the table. This is the Canadians in the trenches of World War I. So it contains some Canadian war history, and it is a powered by the Apocalypse Engine game that has a bit of a, what would it feel like to be there? You take some stress, you have morale. you know, etc. Marvelous. So, all that to say, there are a lot of Canadian role-playing games that you could go and pick up. There are a lot of Canadian RPG publishers who would appreciate your support. There are many others, I'm sure, as well, who would appreciate your support. All of these are available that I've shown you from Composed Dream Games RPG Marketplace, from your local game store, through us. We sell plenty of UK publishers' games as well. And if you have played one of these titles, or you have questions about one of these titles, please comment below. I'd love to answer questions. I'd love to hear about what you've played, how it was. Share. All right. Well, I got back from playing hockey at about 9:10, and now it's 10:30. If you have something you'd like covered in a future video, let me know. I think the next thing I'll probably do is just a rundown of what I am working on for the future, including Fabrication, a game that makes games, and Supervillains Unleashed. As always, good gaming. Canada.